Hello and welcome back to When Hope Endures with Wesley and Mabel.
Hello.
Today we're going to continue talking about Mabel's adaptation time at home. So we talked about your occupational therapy, your speech therapy, and kind of getting back into reading, writing, performing everyday tasks.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we didn't really talk about was more the psychology and the mental aspect of this.
Mm-hmm.
You had a lot of the PTSD from it, where any pain your body would register as, oh my gosh, I'm dying, right? Something's wrong. Stub your toe, you have toe pain, and your brain, because it was still in the fight or flight, would say, oh, something hurts, I'm dying. And you would want to go to the ER or get it checked out. So you were having a lot of these episodes with panic attacks, anxiety.
Yeah. All the time I was like, oh, this is it. This is the heart attack. No, it's not a heart attack. Oh, this is it. This is a heart attack.
And heart attacks were the main thing for you because the panic and the anxiety kind of manifests itself in that way. You weren't even worried about necessarily a stroke again, except you would wake up sometimes at night. So we didn't talk about that much. Sleeping at night was really tough. We had to put on meditation or relaxing music to get you to sleep at night. But you'd wake up multiple times in the middle of the night, almost like a falling dream, like in this panic. And you would be like, my name is Mabel Sellers. My birthday is... And for like a month or two afterwards, whenever you would wake up, you'd be repeating what your name was, what your birthday was. You were affirming to yourself that you knew these things. But while you were awake, the worry was always a heart attack. Even though you had a stroke, everything was worried about the heart because that's what you would feel with the panic and anxiety.
Yeah. I went multiple times to the ER.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes like my arms would get like numb, and my arm would feel like very tight all the way to my heart.
Uh-huh.
And I would think it was a stroke, and I would be over there at the ER, and I would be like, okay, but I just got a stroke. Because I think also like a lot of it was like, okay, make sure that she's okay, because they get have a heart attack,
Right.
So if she feels this tightness in the chest or whatever, you gotta go. So I was like, oh my gosh, I need to feel this. I'm feeling it, and I have to go.
Uh-huh.
And that took pretty good 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a couple different times that was the case. One was when Bastion was at a job as an extra, and you were there as the parent because you had done a lot of extra work beforehand, and you were there just checking.
Yeah, I wanted to be an extra, but I didn't think I was ready for it yet, because it's like a lot of hours, 12-hour job.
So he was there, and you called me, and I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. And you talked to the emergency people there on set, and then they had the ambulance and everything come down to you, and so I had to rush down to the hospital.
But then when I was at the ambulance, I was like, I don't know, like it hurts. And then when I was at the ambulance, my panic attack started to ease a little bit. And so I was talking to them, and they're like, if you were having a heart attack, you would not be like talking right now. And I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know. Like, it was so stressful. And it was stressful because Bastion was so worried, and I didn't want them to get worried, but I wasn't feeling good at all. Like, that panic attack was painful. And um like all my hands, my legs, everything got numb. Like if you when you stab your toe and then it gets it
Mm.
gets numb. My whole body got numb like that. And so I think it was like a really huge level of anxiety because it was people I didn't know. It was just me and Bastion.
And up to this point, you couldn't be by yourself for too long. Like,
Yeah.
I was working from home and I was afraid to leave you alone for too long because if you were alone for a little bit, you would start to call me and start falling into an anxiety or panic.
Uh-huh.
And so you wanted to do this and you were over there by
Yeah,
yourself.
you dropped us
Yes, you
off.
couldn't drive
And
yet. This was prior to you getting authorization to drive again.
you dropped us off and then Bastion, he was so nervous and so because he went through a lot of trauma.
Hmm.
Seeing
He was always the one there seeing.
and so I went to the hospital, nothing happened. I was just a panic attack. They checked my heart all the time and I was so embarrassed to even like put my kid again in there because they were probably like, "Oh, this is the crazy lady."
No, better safe than sorry, though.
Yes.
I think a lot of the emergency understood that. That was an interesting one because the paramedics that they had were not
Part
the
of the
municipal
hospital. Yeah.
paramedics. They were a private organization, and so we had a lot of bills and dealings with
Yeah.
them because where the insurance would cover the regular emergency, they only covered a portion of this, and so there was a lot of back and forth with that.
Mm-hmm.
Then the other time that I remember specifically was also with Bastion. We were heading into a restaurant to go eat,
Yes.
and we were waiting to be seated, and you said, I need to go to the ER right now. This one is a heart attack.
Yes.
And by that time, we
It
had
was
already been in the ER quite a few times. And so that time I dropped you off, and I said, I will be right back. I'm going to drop Bastion off at home because I wasn't going to make him sit at the hospital, and the hospital wasn't too far away. So I dropped him off, and I got back. That one was, I'm going to say, a little more legit and understanding because that's when they found out that there are some other issues and you needed a hysterectomy, right?
Yeah.
So there was an underlying cause with some of the pain there. I believe you had a pretty big cyst and or something there that was causing
Back pain.
With it, and so again it was with Bastion, and Bastion was once again worried, texting me all the time, is mommy doing okay?
I worked really hard and I keep working really hard because I know it's not real and like
Well, you had a lot of stuff at that time because both the PTSD along with postpartum and everything else, there's a lot of factors at play there.
Yeah, the postpartum depression with girls, with my girls, were really bad.
Yeah, you didn't have with the two boys, but with Leandra it was pretty bad, and then
Brianna was really bad too.
And then add this on top of it.
Yeah, which I think feeling with Leandra, right? Like knowing how bad it got, I knew when it was starting with Brianna, how I didn't want to go back to how bad it was with the other one.
Right.
And so, yeah, plus the stroke, and they said I was gonna have probably like depression with the stroke and stuff, and I
Mhm.
didn't want to take medicine at the beginning.
You finally agreed, and come to find out that they give you an SSRI, and SSRIs are often used with stroke patients anyway, um, because it helps with part of the healing process as well.
Yeah. And when I started taking those, I well, I decided to take them because of school,
Mm-hmm.
which we are gonna go through this. Like, I had my finals in school because I went back.
Mm-hmm.
I had to repeat, like we said, my accounting, and then I had to take one last tax, um, one last tax class, and we were checking which one was gonna be the easiest to finish off the minor.
We need tax and one other accounting class at the same time. So,
Which was the one that
yeah.
I was in the middle of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I had to take that class again with the same lady, right? Because she was the only one that had that class. And she still didn't want to do much of the what is it called? The when
Even though you had the so you went and you did the neuro psych evaluation, and then you took that information to the disability services at the school, and they wrote up about extra time on testing and if possible allowing them to test in a different environment and everything,
and eat.
And eat during a test, because as we had talked about, if you don't eat you would get really confused, and when you would be doing something that's mentally taxing you would have to eat. But she didn't want to honor a lot of those
Yeah, she was like, okay,
those recommendations.
The test is an hour and a half for any person, right? Or 2 hours an hour. I don't know. But you have 3 hours. And in these 3 hours, if you want to eat, you have to or you want to break, your time's still running. So that wasn't very good because it took me forever to read the questions, and they weren't gonna read it for me. And I don't know, did it have reading? No, I don't think it had reading.
No, on the homework and everything, you had the thing that would allow it to read for you. But in the test, it didn't.
Yeah.
And we would go over the test, and you would understand the material and everything on it when you and I would be going over all the information. But the moment you got in there,
everything was gone.
Everything, like, you couldn't even read or understand what the questions were saying.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was super stressful trying to do an accounting test.
And that wasn't the tax class. That was your other accounting class. And that was the final that you decided, you know what, I need to take medication. I'm only going to take it for a period of time. But your anxiety was overwhelming. We had been in and out of the ERs due to this. It was kind of the culmination of everything. And you're like, I need some extra help here.
Yeah, well,
your neurologist had been offering it. Your doctor had been offering it, but you kept denying it.
Because I took medication before with my postpartum depression, and it did not do very good.
Right.
Because it wasn't the right medication. And I didn't want to try anything else. But, with my other class, my tax class, my teacher was working with me.
Well, because you took the first test there at her office.
Yeah, she said, okay, you can do the test, right? You could have like a little, well, the regular people would have a little notes,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
A little note card.
Uh-huh.
But you were able to bring
But I
all your
had no
notes.
idea. And then she said, yeah. And she's like, well, I had my
You had a
stuff
little
with
card,
me.
I think.
Uh-huh. I just had the little card. And she's like, okay. And she saw me like my back felt like it was going to snap in half
Mm-hmm.
of the stress. And I started having panic attacks
And crying
to the
and
max.
everything. Like you couldn't.
Yes, I couldn't do anything. So she saw me how hard, like how stressed I was, and she didn't want to be the the cause of anything.
Right?
And so she's like, "Okay, you know what? Just take it. Just take it, and just take it home, and you can do it at home without stress." And so the next couple tests, I could take it home.
Mm-hmm.
Even with her notes and everything, because I was like super worried and stressed. She even gave me like all her notes. It reminded me of high school. Just kidding. No, high school, junior high. Anyway. um yeah, in junior high my teachers used to give me their key. Because I would be good behaved. Anyway. um so the same, like, even with all the notes and all the answers, not all the answers to the test, but all the answers to the similar exercises. Mm-hmm. It took me a long time.
Mm-hmm. It took you long time to finish the test.
Yeah, and like it took me 3 days, spending like an hour a day or 2 hours
more,
a day.
yeah.
And so she was amazing. She really helped me a lot, because I'm like, you know what? I'm probably not gonna be able to do this anymore. I just want to graduate.
Right.
This is my minor.
Well, that even happened on the final exam. She's like, well, the department head, and we need you to take the final in the testing center because you did well on these other ones. Again, it took you a very long time to do well on these. And you told her, okay, because she said, because it's not going to position you very well for the next classes to take. Mm-hmm. She thought you were an accounting major. And that's when you told her, I'm just trying to graduate. This is the last class I need to graduate. But you were willing to do it if needed. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, I didn't realize that this was just a minor and that this was the last class. So she went and let you take the final from home as well. Yeah. And I remember, like, I had to go to the library or else I wouldn't even finish. Mm-hmm. With all my kids. But I had to go to the library and be like, okay, this is the similar exercise. How she did it over here. How to do it over here. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember what I got, but I was like, okay, I passed. Thank you. Bye. I don't want to know. And we would go to the library to study too. Mm-hmm. I mean, this was probably like year and a half after. No, only a year after your stroke that you started to go back to school. Yeah. And it bugged me a little bit because before, you know me, I always wanted to have like at least an 80 or more, like good student. Yeah, you had like a 3.8 GPA prior, and this brought you down a little bit. Yeah, but I was like, I don't care. I'm not gonna do this anymore. So it's just let me graduate. And yeah, it really was really nice. Mm-hmm. And then you had that, and then your Spanish class.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were able to graduate. Something we weren't sure. You were so close to graduation, and then we were worried that, oh, well, she's not going to be able to finish her bachelor's degree with just a couple classes left.
Yeah.
But you did it, and you were able to finish your bachelor's degree, even in the face of the aphasia and everything that you were still struggling with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the anxiety, where I guess there's different, we gotta separate like the panic attacks and the anxiety, but the anxiety portion, when you would be putting on a spot, the aphasia would just take over.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You could be reading something until somebody said, oh, what does this say? And then all of a sudden you would have no idea what it said. Same with numbers, right? You can know numbers until somebody said, hey, what's this number? And then it would just completely shut off.
Mm-hmm. Like, oh, give me your phone number. Give me this phone number that it's in this paper, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I wish I would overcome this, because I would like to be a receptionist or something, but my biggest fear is that, right? Like,
somebody telling their number.
What if, telling me your number, or like, they're like, oh yeah, I tell her or him like, oh, your appointment is on Friday the 15th, when isn't really a Friday the 18th or whatever, you know, like I'm afraid of saying the wrong dates or the wrong numbers.
Because sometimes you still transpose those, especially under pressure. So we did, after the stroke, we had a meeting in May at our son's school that for him to go to Walt Disney World with choir. And they were asking for chaperones. So this was just a couple months after the stroke, and I said, I want to sign up as a chaperone. Will you sign up with me? And you said,
nope.
First you said no, but then you said, well, as long as we could chaperone together, right? Be together as a chaperone. And so I wrote that as a note in our chaperone request, or whatever paper we had to submit on. I said, we would like to be together, and it's under the understanding that we will chaperone as a team, the same group. Well, we were both accepted to chaperone. That would have been the next January or February. January, right? So not even a full year after the stroke. And we were both accepted, but then they put us over 2 different groups.
Yeah.
And so you were nervous. Okay, how am I going to do this? And I think it went well, though. I mean, it was
really fun. I was just afraid, because I'm afraid of airplanes. Although this last time, my fear of airplanes was like a little bit less. But yeah, at that point, I was like, what am I going to do? It's a new experience, right? Like,
exactly.
Going on an airplane, and
we're still at the point where going to a store, you were terrified, and now here you're thinking, okay, well, within 6 months, I have to be able to go on an airplane and take care of
3 girls.
Yeah.
And
or 4?
Or 4. I don't remember.
Yeah, I had 3 boys. You had 4 girls.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. And then I was always like, I was also thinking, like, how am I gonna go through the TSA? Yeah, that was so stressful.
Well, trying to get
the TSA was stressful. Yeah, trying to get
being a chaperone,
girls, and then if one was gonna stay there because they had to check their bags or whatever, and I'm like, oh, it's the other ones, and the airplane is leaving. And
well, you and I were on the same flight, but the whole school group, we had 3 different flights that the kids were on. But trying to get all these kids through TSA on the plane, keep track of them with a layover, and make sure they get fed during the layover and everything else. And then going to Disney World and keeping track of them at Disney World and everything. It was a big thing,
Yeah, and
big
sometimes
deal.
they didn't want to answer your texts
Mm-hmm.
or be like, oh, why is she asking me these things? Like
Right, and you can't
getting
just tell them like
mad
the
at
lady at
me.
Maverick. You can't be like, "Well, I just had a stroke." No, you can't.
No, I had to be like, okay, take care of these girls.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think it was a great experience. Like, I think that was kind of a turning point for you as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Yeah, it was another one like, oh, I can do
Uh
this.
huh.
Yeah. Yeah. Most of the time too, I was with you anyway because my girls were like scattered all over. We just had to like meet, make a text,
Mm-hmm.
meet for lunch. I want to know where you're at. Thank you. Bye.
Right. As long as they were in the park and you knew where they were
Mm-hmm.
at, so you would hang out with our
Except for the last
group.
day. The last day we had to
A
be with
couple
them.
kids ruined it for everyone, and all the chaperones had to be with their kids at all times.
Yeah, and the two girls were friends, and then the other two girls were friends,
But they
but
weren't
they
friends
weren't friends
together.
together. Yeah, so they did not like each other, and then they escaped from me. And like, okay, whatever. They made it back safely.
Yep. And then you never had to see him again.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yes, I still see him some, but anyway.
but you also decided, okay, I want to start working again.
Hmm.
So,
Well, I thought, okay, this is I want to keep progressing.
mhm.
Um, I don't. Did I work? Like, what was I working before? I worked at a restaurant and stuff like that, but then I stopped working for a little while.
Yeah, you did massage therapy a long time ago. Then you
Mm-hmm.
worked as a, yeah, you had stopped working for a little while and thinking, okay, I'll work later on.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But then,
but you had been doing a lot of extra work
oh yeah, the
here and there, so
extra.
that's what you were
Uh-huh.
doing,
Yeah.
and stand-in stuff,
Uh-huh.
um, and that's what the first thing you went back to was, okay, I'm gonna see if I could do this.
Mm-hmm. Like I'm going to the next level because I feel like I'm very comfortable in here and I don't get to be out and talk to people.
Uh-huh.
It was just my house or dance class, which
Right.
everybody knew me at dance class, so I already had that confidence, but I wanted to put myself out there to see what I could do.
So you signed up for something you had been an extra on before.
Yeah. And
Yeah, drove down to Payson by yourself for the first time.
I had to, yeah, drive by myself. And this is a 12-hour thing in the middle of nowhere. Well, it was in Goshen.
Yeah, past Payson, but
Space in the middle of nowhere.
sun beating down on you, and you didn't do well with the sun. You had to eat and drink, and out there you may not have as much chance.
Yeah, but actually I had a really good time. It was really tough because before I could be there for 3 days, no problem. Like go back home and like
Right.
back and forth an hour and a half and be okay, but coming like it was too long of a drive for me.
Mm-hmm.
I just did it like once or twice.
Well, you stayed at my sister's house.
Yeah.
At night in Payson, so you didn't have to drive all the way back.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
And that was rough because that was your first night away.
Oh,
so you kind of had some
PTSD in there.
Panic attacks there too. There.
Yeah, I had such a bad panic attack in there, but I didn't go to the hospital. I kept it within me. I don't know. I think I did talk to your sister. I don't remember.
Yeah.
About it.
Yeah, and you talked to me. You called me, and then you talked to my sister.
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't keep it up, but maybe later next year I think I tried doing it again. and it was better experience than, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But I also went to another extra thing. They needed people to be in a meeting and teach a lesson or whatever. And I was like, they said there's not gonna be any talking. You can, just stay in the meeting and
Mm-hmm.
be part of it, right? And I thought, okay, I can do this because I want to um but that was before the one in Goshen. This was
Okay.
my first one after the stroke.
Uh-huh.
And um I thought, okay, I'm gonna see if I'm ready for this. I was not ready for it. I got there, everything was good. When we started filming, they're like, okay, we're gonna start reading this book, and each person is gonna read like one paragraph. And I started freaking out. I'm like, what is this? No, this wasn't in the contract.
I can't read.
I can't read. And so when it was my turn and they were filming, I think I ruined it for them. But anyway, I was like, I started saying like, I don't know what this says. I have no idea. Like, but I was, because I'm like, well, it's not gonna have sound
Right.
in my, because they said it's just gonna be like a
Uh-huh.
video without sound, but I think it did have sound. I don't know, but they had to stop and they're like, okay, what's going on? And I started like crying. I'm like, I don't know how to read. I just had a stroke and I have no idea what this says. Sorry. And then like, okay, no worries. Let's try this again or whatever. And this guy had to help me. He was reading it for me, like teaching me where we were. And then when we went out, I'm like, I'm so sorry. I had no idea I had to read this. Like, I wasn't prepared for it. And I don't know. It was their own problem. But
Yeah.
I don't know how it went. But after that, I was a little afraid of doing anything. And that's when I later decided to go, okay, I can try this again. This is not gonna be reading. And it's not hot. It was hot, but not as hot as other
Right.
times. So
not midsummer. Getting the end of summer.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, I can do this. And then that one worked better. And then after that, I decided, okay, I'm good. I'm gonna start looking for a job.
Yeah, you said I've got to where I could progress without that, and I was in complete agreement. I mean, you didn't work a lot prior to that other than the extra stuff, but we both agreed that it would help you out quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so I recommended a place. So I knew that the people that did like the custodial work at the office I worked at, I was working from home, but I knew they had quite a bit of flexibility because you come within a certain period of time, and you're looking for something that you can work around your kids' school schedules when they have programs and everything. So I recommended that you applied there. That was kind of funny.
Yeah. It was I don't remember very much.
You applied, and when you got accepted, they assigned you to
to your to your
to the
office.
building that I worked in, to my office. It wasn't planned or anything, but that just happened to be the building you were assigned to.
Yeah, and that was a really fun place to work because I would joke around with them, and even upstairs they knew me to like another office.
Mm-hmm.
They knew me too, and I would talk to a guy in there, like talking about life and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And that was a very, flexible.
It helped you gain some confidence, and
Mm-hmm.
it was funny because again, I was working from home, but there were some people in the office, and so my coworkers would see you more than they saw me.
Yeah.
So when we would go to like a company picnic or Christmas party, everybody already knew you, and
Yeah,
it was
like,
like,
oh,
oh, who's this visitor here?
this is Mabel's husband.
Even though I was the one working for the company.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun. Around that same time, you had also applied for a job as a physical therapist tech, because physical therapy, you always wanted to be a physical therapist, right?
Yeah. I always wanted to be a physical therapist, like since I was in high school. And like life happened and went another route. And that's why I decided to do massage therapy, but then it didn't work very good either. But I always wanted to work as a physical therapist because my mom, when I was little, my mom volunteered as a thing called Teleton, which is like for kids with disabilities. And they would do physical therapy or occupational therapy or whatever to the kids. And my mom was a volunteer there, and she took me one time over there, and I saw all these kids that needed help, and they couldn't talk, or they would have like restriction of their hands or whatever. And I told my mom, I want to work in one of these places. And that didn't happen, but at least I somehow, after my stroke, and I went to a rehab place, I'm like, okay, I think Heavenly Father wanted me to go back to my thing. Maybe I have 4 kids and way busy. I'm not gonna be starting a physical therapy career, but
Right.
at least I want to or work with somebody like physical therapists. And so I think I asked somebody that used to work at a physical therapy where I could work and stuff, and she gave me some reference, and so I decided to apply for it. And I was so nervous because I mean, you don't need uh an interview to be standing or to be
Right.
uh extra or whatever, right? And so I had to do a job interview, and I talked to the person, and I told them why I wanted to be or not a physical therapist, but like help with physical therapy because I had a stroke and I um wanted to help other people, and but I don't think he understood that part. Because I remember he said, well, we don't have many people with strokes here, that had strokes here. But yeah, we've had like a lot of knee patients or like elbows and whatever, like else. But I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but okay. And so he, I did my interview and he called me back. And I'm like, okay. I guess I'm gonna start working.
Well, and you got an offer from the two places kind of at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
The custodial and the physical therapy.
So I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna start 2 jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But before I just could handle one, now I'm gonna handle 2. And so I worked in there at first. It was like really hard because I was like, okay, they probably still don't know that I had my stroke, so
Right.
I need to just keep going and keep going. And I had hard times over there. I had to lay down one time because I had really bad headaches because I had migraines and headaches ever since.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get like super stressed out and crying. And when he's like, hey, so how do you handle stressing situations? That was part of the whatever, the interview. And I was like, well, I try to just take priorities.
Standard textbook interview answer, right?
Take priorities and do my best and see who needs help first or whatever. I don't remember what I said.
Well, and you would cry a lot of times when I would pick you up, too.
I cried. I wouldn't cry. Well, I did cry a couple times over there because it was like really bad situation of I don't know if I can handle this,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm gonna keep going. And you would be the one like, you can't do this. Keep going. Don't let them make you cry. You know, even though like they probably didn't. Their least goal was to make me cry.
Right.
But
You might have thought it was. But...
yeah. I just grew tougher and tougher, and so I'm still there.
Mm-hmm.
But
he realized at some point.
yeah, at some point that when we would read the charts, because we had to do the charts and put the exercises, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had like the best tech to train me.
Uh-huh.
Yes, he is so patient and he was so good, and we've been together, and he was like a month before he started, a month before me, and we were like, okay, I had to clean, is that a thing? Like on him, like I was like, okay, you're the one. And I had appointments of ophthalmologists or whatever, the neuro yeah. And I would tell him, I told him I had a stroke, and he was like 20 at that point.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I had a stroke and I don't know what this says. Like the chart. And I would be like like if it was like 15 minutes or 10-minute thing, bike or whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm like, this is bike, right? And this is a 10?
Just like, making sure, like reaffirming that.
Is this twice a minute? Like, or is it 2 minutes? Like, I would ask him so many questions like that. And he probably like, lady, you could be my mom and you don't know how to read these things. But no, he was really nice. I told him about it. And then on a staff meeting type thing, the person that hired me, like, he was in his 5 senses. I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing in English, but he was there, and then because he's always so busy with everything, right? And he's like, you had a stroke? I had no idea you had a stroke. And I'm like, yes,
I told you in the interview.
And I think I said that in front of the higher up.
Oh.
And the higher up was like, what? But he was so nice too. Like he was like asking me questions and things, but I I made it through that too. Sometimes I still forget some things, which is stressful, but I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You've been there 2.5 years now.
Yeah, almost 3 years. This is the longest I've lasted.
Mm-hmm.
And I stopped my custodial.
And that was after 2 years. So you did that 2 years, and then
Yeah, I stopped that, and then I
because you graduated and you went to go work as a
TA in a school last year, and I said, okay, I studied Spanish. I'm gonna go to Spanish school, where I didn't even teach Spanish or helped with any of the Spanish, but
Well, that's so. In this interview, you didn't tell him that you had had a stroke
no, I
when
didn't
you got
tell
that
him.
job.
Yeah, in this interview, I didn't tell him I had a stroke. I'm like, well, a TA, I thought, well, it's just helping teachers. But it's not just helping teachers, it's doing classes. And then, like, I have a okay accent. And that's why they liked me in my interview, because a lot of, like, Hispanics have the accent and they don't know how to pronounce some things. And I was good at that time.
Right.
And so they liked me for that, to be able to teach language arts to kids. But it was really hard because when I got nervous under pressure, right? Everything would fall apart. And so we were doing a training, and then one of my bosses, she's like, okay, so we're gonna do this. You're gonna be reading, and then you're gonna tell me the wrong things, and I had to correct you so you know how it goes. Well, my reading is super, super slow. And so she's like, oh, you're doing a great job. She's kidding.
Now that you were
that I was like
acting like a child, right?
Yeah, the one that you don't know how to read. But then I was like, this is me. I don't know how to read. I know how to read, but
right. But under pressure, when you're trying to do it timed and trying to, you have your boss there looking at you, right?
So it was like, I'm so sorry. And my friend is like, just tell them, because I told her, it was the first time I met my friend too, but like, I said, this is so hard. And they're looking at me like, what is going on? And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to tell you that I had a stroke, and under pressure, I can't. And if this girl or the kids are reading a passage, I can't follow if they're reading fast. And if they're reading fast, well, I'm trying to think, oh, I had to correct here, and then I had to tell them how to do these things at the same time.
Right.
It's really hard for me. And so then I thought maybe I could have done it, because I was always with my friend. Like when I had like free time, I would be with her and saying what to do, right? And but they put me with the hard kids.
Yeah, you weren't as much of a TA as you were just helping out with the difficult kids.
Yeah. And that was quite the experience, but I mean, this is not the podcast to talk about it. Just kidding.
Oh, but you finished almost a full year of that, but then you picked up more hours of the
physical
therapy again, and I mean, you not discount that you also have a business, right? You do embroidery and have been doing that this whole time too. You were nervous once you were going to start doing embroidery again after the stroke.
Yeah, so I thought, okay, I have 3 jobs right now because, well, at some point, because it was the
Mm-hmm.
janitorial, the
TA.
TA, and the PT
Mm-hmm.
tech, which that was once a week, but still
Mm-hmm.
added to the whole thing. And my kids were like, okay, mom, when am I gonna see you?
Right. And then when embroidery jobs would come in,
I didn't
they
have
would
time
get put
for it.
off.
Yeah.
And
So I'm like, okay, I need to. I started with the janitorial. I'm like, okay, I'm done with this for
mm-hmm.
now. I really need to focus on my kids and my other business, which is the
Right.
embroidery. And so that got really hard because the kids that were hungry of me decided to like, okay, let's be with mom at night because now we can be with her instead of in the morning. And it was really hard. So then the school was about to finish, and then there were openings of more hours. And I decided, okay, I'm gonna take these hours because if I don't take these hours, it's gonna be hard to go 3 times
Mm-hmm.
a week and focus on my business. So that's why I decided to stop all 3 jobs. Well,
Two of the
just,
three.
yeah,
Right.
2 of the 3 and just stay with the one.
But you've been with it 2.5 years, even with the struggles as you work um to overcome it. Like, yes, there's still some things you may not be comfortable with, like doing front desk, answering phones and stuff. But I think that was a huge step in overcoming um a lot more. Like, it
Like,
helped you progress so much faster once you started working. And it also helped with your anxiety and other
yeah,
stuff as
being
well.
able to communicate with people, it's not just little kids
Mm-hmm.
and not just like my kids. I wanted to know that I could still have a conversation with somebody older. So this job, the PT, has helped me to do that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
help people, and they help me keep on my conversations.
And they probably don't realize they're helping you while you're helping them, right?
Yeah.
But the blessing to be able to go back to work 6 months after the stroke,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a little more than 6 months, you were already going back to work.
Yeah, the stroke was in March, and I started working in November.
November, yep. So within that time frame, you had the stroke, you were able to start working, you finished school the next year, a bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to drive again, even with a vision. You've learned to adapt to that. So many things you were able to adapt to and overcome. Even though we can't say that there's no lingering effects. I mean, you still have vision issues. You've learned to compensate for that. You're still a bit slower in reading and writing. But it's something that keeps progressing, keeps getting better, even this many years afterwards. I think even with all those things that you overcame, I really think the hardest thing was to overcome the idea that
I was gonna be okay.
That you were going to be okay. So we came up with the saying that it's okay to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That was your saying since like a month after the stroke, because you were worried. Oh, if all of a sudden I'm okay, are people going to think I was lying? Are people going to think this? And so you constantly had in the back of your mind that something had to still be
wrong.
Right. And even sometimes still there's that as to, okay, am I really okay? Have I really done this? And so we keep reminding ourselves, no, it's okay to be okay. Right? It's okay to progress. Understanding everybody progresses at a different rate. You had miraculous progression, but sometimes that was hard for you to accept. And when you would start to advance with things, it's not like you were denying the blessings that were given to you, but it was just hard for you to accept that you were making that progress, or that it was okay to be okay.
Yeah. Yep.
This about wraps up this episode. I think we'll have one more after this. We'll talk a little bit from my side of the story, kind of what was happening around here during all this, and kind of wrap up talking a little bit more about some of the miracles and the things that helped out for both of us during this. How we were able to hold on to hope and faith and everything through this troubling time. Join us next time.
Thank you.